So I've seen YouTube videos where they repair a problem with the skin on an RV delaminating or coming loose from the substrate, the material that's behind it, by injecting epoxy and things like that back behind the thing from the outside, behind the Filon skin. This RV that I just purchased a short while ago had a delamination problem on the front. This fifth wheel was 300 miles from my home, so I tried to find out as much as I could about it before I went down there. So the salesman sent me this walk-around video where he tried to show me the good, bad, and ugly, as he put it. The salesman did not try to hide the delamination problem. However, they tried to minimize the causes of that. And I think he did a pretty good job showing me what he could tell was wrong with the thing. He told me there had been a leak, that it was now repaired according to the person they traded this in on.
Pretty rugged. But she says everything is fixed, so we just took her word for it.
From what I could see, everything else looked good on this fifth wheel. It was exactly the size we were looking for and the weight range. So I decided to buy this little moisture meter from Amazon. Anyway, I packed up my new moisture meter along with a bunch of other tools, and I made the trip to go see this thing. Before trading it in, the previous owner had told the dealer that they had had the roof repaired professionally. I confirmed that by climbing up there and taking a look, and it was a Dicor product, and it looked like they did a good job. So also, I used my new moisture meter from inside where the paneling showed that buckling, and I confirmed it was still quite wet there. Now, I'm a skilled craftsman and I'm not afraid to tackle stuff like this, so after negotiating the price further down, I closed the deal and towed it on home. I opened it up from the inside and found quite a mess, a bunch of soggy insulation and what appeared to be black mold within the insulation and on the surface of the substrate behind the Filon skin. By the way, if you're ever dealing with something like this, be sure to wear an organic vapor respirator like this one. Take it from somebody who developed adult onset asthma after dealing with that kind of thing. But I was happy to find aluminum framing and not wood. I was amazed that the material behind the Filon was a paper product, like a thin cardboard which had really disintegrated. Now there was part of this area that was still wet behind these cabinets on the two sides. The cabinets were not easy to get out, so I just left them and used this vacuum and a couple heaters to try to dry it out as best I could under there. I had also sprayed everything down with this mold control solution, which I hoped would kill all that mold. After I pulled out all the wet insulation, I used this spray foam to fill the gaps back behind those cabinets. Okay, this is the adhesive I'm using. It's called Sikaflex number 291, and it's a polyurethane, I think. Anyway, it's a poly type adhesive, and it's made for marine use and etc. So I think it will be good here. I've already cut one piece of this masonite and shoved it in from above. It was very tight, but in order to get it down, I just used I made a block like this out of 2x4 and cut a groove in it, and then used it as a pounded on the top of it with my little sledgehammer, and that's how I got it down. Pretty stiff, but it worked. And now I've got this last piece I'm going to slide in up into here. So spreading the glue. Don't be stingy with this. By the way, that's this stuff is available on Amazon. I think it's about $14. So it's clamped up and looks kind of funky, but it's pushing against it, so that's all I needed. And I'll let that set up for a while. This has a quick tack time. I think it said 1 hour or less. So in a little while I'll be able to take those off, and then I will insulate and put a panel on the inside. So I'm just using this R13 15-inch wide insulation. It's 3.5 inches thick, but you can compress it somewhat. I'll see how it goes. So this stuff a little bit too thick for fitting up in these areas here. I squeeze it in down here and I think that'll be okay, but what I'm doing is splitting it, which it does fairly easily. Splitting it this direction so that it's not nearly as thick. I'm going to try to mostly use the side with the vapor barrier towards the living space, which is how insulation is supposed to be. I also decided to add this extra support here, this little 1x2, and I used what was left of my Sikaflex stuff and glued it in place and just pried it underneath the aluminum on each end. Glued in, and it gives me just an extra nailer for the next layer that I'm going to put over this before we cover it with cloth. Things are just about ready for our interior panel to go on. Okay, I'm ready to put this piece on. Let's see if I can get a view of it. It's large, but it's going to cover this whole area in here, so it has to be rather large. I've added a backer piece up there, 1x3 pine, and one down at the bottom, 1x2 pine, and one in the middle, which I showed before, 1x2 also. And I've got this chalk lines on this piece now ready for nailing. It was a little struggle to get it in place, but there it is. I don't know how much you can see there, but it's ready for to be nailed off. So I'm adding a few sheet metal screws just to be sure it's in there nicely. It's a self-tapping screw. There it is, ready for cloth. What we decided to go with was this cloth material that my wife had already. We put a quilt backer piece on there, which you can see here, I think. So that's just fabric glue holding it in place temporarily. And then centered this up in here. Let's see. I marked the center with a piece of tape so that's where I started stapling. And I started using a hand stapler, but I think the air stapler is better. So it makes smaller, they're only 1/4 inch crowns, so it probably will look better. They'd be more hidden. And I'm just folding it over with the batting behind it and stapling it in. By the way, I did have to turn the pressure down to minimum amount. In the case of this nail gun, this staple gun, it's 50 pounds pressure. And I'm trying to put these staples in an even pattern, so I'm going down 6 inches down the center. So I very quickly realized that holding a tape measure up there is not the best way to place these staples. So I made this, I believe they call these a storyboard, but I can't remember for sure. I think that's called a storyboard. So I spaced 6 inch lines across, and I had this scrap piece of masonite, so I ripped it at 6 inches. So I hopefully end up with a nice neat pattern of 6 inch staples every 6 inches square throughout the thing. Well, that's what it looks like. It's let's see, get a light back here. It looks like a tufted kind of headboard, hopefully. I think it looks all right. So here I am back on the outside, and I just wanted to show how stiffened up it is. I can hardly push that in at all. It's nice and firm, no ripples. I can feel just a slight depression in some areas, but Nothing to get excited about. Even over on the side where I didn't put masonite, but I put foam inside, it is stiffened up and in good condition. So here's what it looks like complete with the mattress back in place. And the cloth looks pretty good, I think. It's like a tufted kind of look, fairly even because I used that storyboard to space the staples. And I was able to reuse the little pieces of trim on the edges that I pulled off carefully when I took the paneling off originally. I'm happy with it.